Hello, welcome to Cruise House. My name is James and Elsa, and I'm joined as ever by...
Oh my god, are we rolling?
Yeah.
You didn't give me any warning.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I click record, so you should pay attention. And I'm joined by Elsa Grace. How are you, Elsa?
I'm great. I feel a little perturbed at that beginning, James.
Well, you know.
Sorry I'm not watching for the tiny red button on your side of the table.
So, we are...
Hello, everybody.
We are currently in a cinema bar. So we're trying not to be. I'm trying not to be my usual slightly shouty podcasty self. Last time on the podcast we discussed The Railway Man, starring Colin Firth, and thanks to the second assistant director, Ray Kenny, we have landed on this week's film, which is Ex Machina.
Over the next few days, you're going to be the human component in the Turing test.
One day the AIs are going to look back on us the same way we look at fossils.
Hello.
How do you feel about her?
Oh man, she's amazing.
You're impressed?
Yes.
Do you want to be my friend?
Of course.
Now the question is, how does she feel about you?
Do you think about me when we aren't together?
Did you give her sexuality as a diversion tactic?
This is your insecurity talking. This is not your intellect.
Did you know that I was brought here to test you?
Does Ava actually like you? Or is she pretending to like you?
Nathan, he isn't your friend. I'm wrong.
Wrong about what?
Everything. Do you want to be with me?
Can we talk about the lies you've been spinning me?
What lies?
You have to help me. You have to help me. What will happen to me if I fail your test?
So, Elsa, tell us all about Ex Machina. Now, I'm going to point out to the listeners that Elsa's
Here
just
we go.
told me.
Here we go, listeners.
When's the last time you actually watched Ex Machina?
Probably about 9 years ago.
Cool. So this is going to be an interesting.
8 or 9.
This is going to be an interesting one because I don't think Elsa is going to really remember what happened. She'll be like, "Oh, so that bit with the dinosaurs, and then they're trying to get out of the Jurassic Park."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my favourite bit.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So.
The special effects in that was so good.
So go on. Tell us about Ex Machina, or try and tell us about Ex Machina.
All right, you're so salty. I remember this film. This film stuck in my brain. I watched it with my housemate, and I remember he was really happy, and he just didn't get any of the emotional turmoil of the film. And I think he purely was like, android robots, sick. And also Alicia Vikander, hot.
Yeah, okay.
And he had a great time. Anyway, so Ex Machina. 2014 this film came out. It was started pre-production in 2013 and it was released in the UK in 2015 and it came out in America about 4 months later, which I really like that fact because we never get movies before America. It had a $50 million budget and it actually grossed 37.8 mil, I think, which is crazy because this was the director's debut directing, Alex Garland. He also wrote it. He had written films before.
28 Days Later,
yeah.
Sunshine.
He'd also written android, anthropomorphic robot kind of films before. But this was his directorial debut and he actually fought for a smaller budget, the smallest budget he could because he really didn't want to relinquish any creative control, which I really admire. And actually, I don't think that the film suffered because of it. You're really staring at me like you're waiting for me to screw up.
No.
So the film follows our lead, Domhnall Gleeson, who plays Caleb Smith, and he's a programmer at some tech company called Blue Books?
I don't know.
It's called Blue Book,
I don't think it matters.
It was a big thing in the start because basically a competition is run by the CEO, who is played by Oscar Isaac, and he wins this competition to go and spend a week at the CEO's luxury, crazy house out in the wilderness which I'm not sure why anyone would want to win a competition to go and live with their CEO for a week. But he won this competition and he gets flown out by helicopter.
And Oscar
then,
Isaac is like this, like seen as this like visionary genius.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a Steve Jobs, Elon Musk kind of.
Yeah.
Although I have things to say about Elon Musk, but I'm not going to say anything.
Okay. We can get into that. Anyway, so he is dropped off by helicopter in the wilderness, and then the pilot is like, follow the river to the house, and he finds this house. It's very Architecture Digest. It's all glass and beams, and it's very high tech.
You have to have a key card to get through certain doors.
That's your personal key card that's printed off with your unfortunate face on it for Domhnall. It wasn't a good picture. And then he meets Caleb and they vibe. It becomes apparent quite early on that Nathan, who's Oscar Isaacs, the CEO, has maybe a bit of a drinking problem. He's a bit of a hard party boy. And they hang out, and eventually Nathan says to him, I've built an android called Ava, and she has recently passed the Turing test, which was a test that was originally created by Alan Turing, and it's kind of a very crude explanation of that is where you would have a human and a robot answering questions, and the questioner or the person receiving the answers has to guess which one is the human, which one is the robot. So Ava had already passed this stage of her kind of consciousness testing. So basically, Nathan tells Caleb that he did not technically win this competition. It is planned that he should come out there because Nathan is super intrigued by his interest in AI and his programming abilities, and he's brought him out there to introduce him as the first person other than himself to Ava and see how, the interaction goes and see whether she believes that he believes that she has emotional, connections to humans.
And the idea being as well is that even if you can see, because the design of Ava is quite interesting in that you can she has the face of Alicia Vikander but the body of a robot, and you can see through her. And the idea being that even if you can see that she's a robot, do you still believe her to be human and have consciousness like a human? Because it's one step beyond a Turing test where you can't see that there's a robot.
Yeah. So they meet, they vibe, they get on. Domhnall, sorry, I should say his character's name, Caleb, sort of starts to develop some feelings for her. She says she's developing feelings for him. She paints this idea that they could meet on the outside, and she wants to go to the intersection and see life passing by and all of this kind of thing. And then he finds out that Nathan is kind of an arsehole. I'm going very simply here. Nathan is kind of an arsehole and has basically told him that he's going to reboot her, upgrade her, which means her current personality, her current mind would essentially be destroyed, aka killing Ava. And so Caleb creates a plan with her. He discovers that she has this ability to kind of overpower the surveillance system of the house when she talks to him freely in those moments and is like, don't trust Nathan. And so they conduct a plan for her to do that, and then they're going to escape together, but it goes a bit wrong, which we can get into, but it goes a bit wrong.
Well, it goes a bit wrong for Caleb.
It goes very wrong for Caleb. He tries to get Nathan drunk. Nathan doesn't buy it because he's overheard them having this conversation, and then knocks poor Caleb out, and then realizes that Ava has escaped her room, and she's having a conversation with Kyoko, the other AI in the house, and he goes to her and says, go back to your room. And then she runs at him, and her and Kyoko stab him and kill him, and then she goes and constructs her rest of her skin out of other AI parts and goes and escapes into the world.
Leaving Caleb locked in a room.
Yeah. Which I don't believe. At the time I was like, what? He's gonna starve in that room, that is so dark. Very A24. But actually, someone would have come looking for the guy, right?
Well,
Eventually.
yeah.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to get in though because they don't have a key card.
Whoa, mind blown. Didn't even think about that. That's true.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this movie,
Okay.
actually.
But when we spoke recently, you said you had a lot of things to say about the movie, and you seemed, when I spoke to you, it seemed like the vibe I was getting from you was
That I
you
did not
really
like
did
the movie.
not like the movie. So let's start. I guess as any good place to start is there really.
I think, okay, for me, this is much like, I'm just trying to think back to like other movies that we've done. So I guess it's a bit like Outlaw King, a bit like A Private War, where I think it's a really good movie. I think it's a very well-made movie. And from when I'm thinking about it in like a technical sense, I'm like, yeah, I like this. Is a really good film.
You find it too hard to watch, so you wouldn't watch it again.
I probably wouldn't want to watch it again.
Right, okay.
And I haven't.
You haven't.
No,
Maybe you should create me a list of films that you never want to watch again, so that we don't pick them on the podcast.
No, because I think I know the difference. I can identify the difference between what I believe is a really well-made film and what is something that I would go to watch if I was feeling a bit down, or what I would happily rewatch with a family member who hadn't seen it. And I mean, to be honest, I probably I wouldn't watch Outlaw King again. I would watch Ex Machina again.
I've seen this film quite a few times at this point.
Have you?
Yeah, like I think when I first saw it, I was sort of blown away by it, and the more I watch it continues to still be a brilliant film. Like, it hasn't gone down at all, which often films can for me on rewatch. They can sort of drop a bit.
Especially with VFX, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe that
I
this
think
was
the
in
visual effects
2014.
in this film are like incredible.
This film was 10 years old and it still holds up.
I think there's part of that is that it's so intelligently done. And actually, there's a huge amount of visual effects in this film, but it's very focused. You know, they knew that the character of Ava was going to be a big job, and it's going to sell the film, and the film's going to fall apart if that's not right.
Wow.
And so, I think what you said was interesting, because I didn't know that thing about like keeping the budget low. For fear of interference, but I also think there's maybe how he's also approached writing the script, and that he's kept it the fact that it's basically a film with basically three characters. Obviously you have like Kyoko and some of the other like
But
robots,
she's a non-speaking
but she's
character,
not a
so she kind of
non-speaking
blends
part.
into the furniture.
And I think that the restraint shown is probably why it all still works. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like it's only really like 90 minutes, maybe a bit longer, but it's.
I think running time is 108 minutes.
Okay, but so it's less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
So he's kept it short and kept it very focused. And I think, like, obviously we know Alex Garland can write a good screenplay, but then for him to then come and make his first like directorial debut be so brilliant.
Yeah,
and then to
if
also
Ex
follow
Machina
up,
was your directorial debut.
and then to also follow up with 2 brilliant films afterwards. Annihilation is a brilliant film, and I haven't seen Men, but I'm told it's
I haven't seen
a
that.
pretty incredible piece of work, but I just can't bring myself to watch it yet because it just looks too
Heavy.
horrible. So I've seen it quite a few times. I rewatched it for the podcast because I'm a good podcast host. And
Wow.
Yeah.
Shots fired, guys. That's all right. They bounce off of me.
and I also actually found the original screenplay and started reading a bit of that as well.
Yeah, all right, you fucking nerd. You don't get extra points for that.
But what is interesting is talking about restraint and the way he's approached it, the screenplay very, very close to what ends up being on screen, and so it's quite clear that actors were sticking to their lines as written.
Yeah.
And but then when you've got a screenplay that good, then maybe
that's what I was going to say.
You don't need to start.
Also, it wasn't a super improv-y vibe like this film, was it? It's it's robots, and the two male leads are both programmers and spend more time with computers than they do human. Like, I think it makes sense to have a very
tight.
Yeah, it's I think that makes a lot of sense. But can I tell you something that blew my mind about the VFX?
Go on.
So they didn't use any green screens, any tracking markers. That it wasn't motion capture. It was a full bodysuit that they had her in. That was like polyurethane, and it had like metal. They used like a metal fabric for like the grid kind of effect that was on it. And then it had some very subtle lines painted on it for VFX and post, but like that was it, which is insane. And then on top of that, they every now and again did some stuff where they would film a plate and they would film her in it as well to kind of capture the robotic presence, I guess. And they would then rotoscoped her hands and her face, which must have taken hours and hours and hours, which is insane. But that won them the Oscar for Best Visual Effects in a film. Isn't that crazy?
I also think as well, though, it probably lends to Alicia Vikander being able to do to be able to be so present as an actor.
She's got crazy posture though, isn't she, that Alicia? Like, you see her in other films, you're like, is she a droid?
But if you think about if they had like green screen, or they were doing some weird motion capture thing, or she was covered in
dots.
all sorts of dots and stuff, it probably would have been a lot harder for her to. Yeah, I'm sure she would have managed. She's a very good actor, but it always
she
helps
really found the
when you have
physicality.
Yeah, it always helps when you have less. When you have more of a real environment to work in.
Yeah, but I mean, also for Domhnall, right? Because he would have been looking at Ava rather than Alicia's face in a morph suit.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that was a massive help as well. But I just thought that was so cool, because I think when I saw it and when I think back to the visual effects of that film, in my head I'm like, oh God, they must have had all of the big guns out for this VFX, but actually the way that they did it was so clever.
It's really intelligent visual effects, and it's a bit like how Everything Everywhere All at Once won Best Visual Effects at the Oscars most recently, to when we're recording this, and it was a team of 4 people.
Bigger isn't always better, guys.
Who had not really, I don't think had really worked on a feature film before, and
really,
I may be wrong on that, so don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure they hadn't really done much in the way of like big.
Yeah.
And there's something about the inventiveness that you get out of that by not being able to just throw anything you want at something.
Yeah.
Maybe creates a better environment for creativity and figuring out how you're going to do things in a more intelligent way.
Yeah.
That ends up paying off.
Go back to your room.
If I do, are you ever gonna let me out?
Yes.
Stop. Stop. Ava, I said stop!
The lighting was so perfect. It wasn't. I remember reading that they didn't use any fluorescence because he really was like, this cannot look like a sci-fi, iRobot kind of. I want it to. I think they used what are they called? Tungstens, the P bulbs, thousands and thousands, like I don't know, 1,500 or 15,000 of these bulbs, something crazy, and the feel of the film is so beautiful. I thought it was so good.
I think as well that I think the cinematography's very good in the scene where Alicia Vikander is kind of like assembling herself in like the skin, and she's like looking at herself in the mirror, and there's something both beautiful because it's like a character looking at themselves for the first time in the way that they see themselves,
but also terrifying.
But also there's a sort of slightly haunting edge to it.
Yeah.
Especially because you know what's just happened to Oscar Isaac's character.
It's like you've just seen the most machine version of her.
Yes.
And now you're seeing the most human version of her.
And there's still a sort of like, even in I think she plays it so well in that sequence where when she's looking at herself in the mirror, and that she's kind of sort of blank-faced, but like behind the eyes, there's a real mix of like I just said, seeing herself for the first time in the way she views herself, and there's like a sort of happiness to it in a way, but also she never quite flicks into full. You always feel like there's a non-human edge to the way, and I don't know if I'm describing it well.
It's like a shark eye. Like it's there's something but really detached.
Because as an audience member, you sort of connect with her in that moment, and you connect with her throughout the film. I think Alex Garland kind of wants you to some extent to be a bit like Domhnall Gleeson in the fact that he kind of wants you to fall in love with her. But there's still that edge that you're like, there's something off here that I can't put my finger on why. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, this was quite calculated, this casting, because would you expect the same kind of obsessive level of protection and fantasy to come from Caleb if it had been not a completely, marketable, stereotypical, attractive woman?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she was, Alicia Vikander, incredibly beautiful, able-bodied, white, slim. It was all done very cleverly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Caleb was being manipulated not just by Ava.
Yeah, I mean, and there's actually that moment in the film where because Domhnall Gleeson doesn't find out that he didn't win a prize for a fair bit into the film, he realises that Oscar Isaac
chose him specifically.
And Domhnall Gleeson says to Oscar Isaac, did you model Ava on my pornography preferences and like what I watch? And Oscar Isaac says, I can't remember his line in response, but he kind of confirms that that's what he did. And there's definitely something very like sexualized to all of the robots he's creating are sexy women. And like Kyoko is like, she's not able to talk, but he's programmed her to be able to like sexy dance on command.
James, priorities. I don't know why you're pointing that out. It's obviously important.
And
I do think that is. I think that was super well done. But I would also just like to say thank you to the ether, to Alex Garland, for not doing a really obvious plot line of he creates these AI robots to be his sex dolls, and there's, you know, here's a gratuitous rape scene of an AI, like, because that has been done so many times.
It's implied that Oscar Isaac might be doing that.
It's implied that he might be, but like those
But we don't
videos when
know,
he was in the surveillance room, Domhnall Gleeson, and he's looking, do you know what I
Yes,
mean?
yeah.
And it's like these robots are just destroying themselves trying to escape.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is it. This is where we're going to see him assaulting a robot.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think the implication is enough.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah.
I was really like happy about the fact that we didn't have to sit and watch a scene. Did you watch the series Humans? Channel 4 did a...
No, I didn't. No,
Oh God, it's so good. But there is a moment where one of the owners, I mean, actually there's a lot of them because a lot of these AIs are sold into, you know, sex work. But the dad has sex with one of these AI who actually has consciousness.
Right.
And when she kind of comes to later in the series, spoiler, she's like, I was inside the whole time. My mind, I was there the whole time kind of thing. And it's just awful and it's so painful to watch. And I really didn't, I was so happy that wasn't
But
what
I
we had to sit
think
through.
it's clear that Alex Garland does have he is minded towards, you know, if you think about Annihilation, it's pretty much an all-female cast. Oscar Isaac does turn up at the start, but it's basically a film about...
Props to Oscar Isaac, by the way.
Yeah. And Men, I think, is supposed to be a very bleak look at how men treat women. And so I think Alex Garland is clearly, through his 3 directorial films, clearly this is clearly like something he is preoccupied with.
Yeah.
In the themes of his work, in the way that men view women and treat women, and I think there's something to be said for like Domhnall Gleeson's character, sort of thinking that he can save her and be the sort of male saviour to her, and that quickly
And Alex is like, no.
backfires in his...
She's saving herself.
Yeah.
He is a director that I do feel very safe with, you know, in terms of a storyteller. I feel like, you know, you're in good hands. How terrifying was it when she just sort of turns her full body towards Nathan in the corridor and runs at him full pelt? Holy shit. Also the sound design for that.
Yeah, he like struggles to like get her off him as well. Like he does eventually sort of get the upper hand on her until
smacks her arm off.
But like she's clearly got some like strength to her. And it's like, oh,
that was scary. That was really scary. And just but you know what I thought was done really well was the stabbing of Kyoko and then Ava was so mechanical. It was like watching like someone dropping their bank card on the escalator and the escalator just swallows it. Or watching someone get trapped in the tube doors.
There's no emotion on their face.
Yeah, it was so well done. And it was almost like a curiosity.
Yeah.
Like she saw Kyoko do it and then she was like, oh, this causes you pain?
Yeah.
Like it was so good.
How do I look?
You look good.
This is what I'd wear on our date.
Right? First a traffic intersection, then maybe a show.
I'd like us to go on a date.
Yep. Yeah. It'd be fun.
Are you attracted to me?
What?
Are you attracted to me? You give me indications that you are.
Anything else you want to throw at me about this film, given that you haven't watched it in so long, but
Do you
it's
want the-
clearly stuck with you?
Do you want the ratings?
Oh, that feels early, but go
No,
on.
not us rating it. So like Rotten Tomato, I looked them up.
Sure, why not?
Obviously, incredibly successful. 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, with 86% audience score, but I just went for the main one.
Yeah.
And then IMDb was 7.7, which I actually thought was a little low.
Yeah, but
I thought it
IMDb
would be
can
more.
weird sometimes with those scores.
But it's I feel like it's the same group of people. It's the same film nerds that do Rotten Tomatoes, so I thought it would be higher.
Yeah.
I don't say nerds derogatorily. We are film nerds. We have a podcast. We are sat in a cinema
Yeah.
making it.
I mean, do you think there's an element of people going into this thinking it's going to be one? You mentioned that you'd watched it with your friend and
Yeah.
that you had a very different reaction.
Yeah.
And do you think that people maybe go into this and go, it's a robot film and it's got Alicia Vikander in it and she's lovely and oh, look, there's Oscar Isaac, he's a cool guy. And then at the end of it, they're just a bit like, well, okay, I don't really understand how to feel after that.
Yeah, maybe.
Which can leave people a little conflicted in terms of the way they think about a film.
Yeah, potentially. I think you could probably do that with any movie, couldn't you? But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I wouldn't say that the people that go into the cinema and they walk out and they're like, yeah, that was sick. So what? They've enjoyed the movie, they've seen a great movie. I don't think you necessarily need to go into every detail and unpick. No. But I guess, do we ruin films by doing this, do you feel like? Because it makes me like them more. Whereas, do you remember when you were in school and in English Lit, you do like I remember, doing To Kill a Mockingbird, which was one of my favorite books. And I was like, oh, well, brilliant. This is going to ruin this book for me. And it always did, picking them apart in school, you hated the prose afterwards.
Oh, no, I disagree. I think those things have always made stuff more enjoyable for me.
Really?
I mean,
this makes me like the films more.
Especially when I was at film school. At film school, every Friday our Fridays were basically, we would just watch a film. Unless we had shoots or something. And we would be given a film to watch and we would watch it. And invariably, there was occasions where you would watch a film and go, okay, I can see why they have picked to show us this, and it is brilliant. But oftentimes, you would come out of it going, what the fuck was that? And on a Monday, we would have, the whole morning would be just going through this film and dissecting it with a tutor and, and more often than not, you would come out of that Monday morning session going, I think that might be the best film I've ever seen. And then it would happen again every week. And there was a couple of films that I still left and went, nah, it's terrible. But
Name and shame. Name and shame.
No, I'm not going to name and shame. But so I've always enjoyed, and the first thing I do when I watch a film is I will go online and I will read the trivia section on IMDb. I will read anything about the production.
Yeah.
I'll read I want to know what all the Easter eggs are. I want
to know all the goofs.
So I've always got an enjoyment for that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a kid that was sitting at home when I was a kid watching fucking DVD commentaries and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm a nerd for all that stuff.
Do you know what was one of the best DVD commentaries I ever watched was The Goonies?
Oh, I bet that's quite good, actually.
Yeah, they brought them back as adults.
Ah, that sounds good.
It was my favorite film as a kid, so that was great for me. Although Sean Astin leaves halfway through, and I think he had another appointment.
Right.
He was like, I don't need to sit through this commentary from the 80s. And that was a bummer because I love Sean Astin. But yeah, I would do the same thing. But in school, it made them worse.
Wow.
Whereas now I'm I love when we go through films because
Yeah.
I'm oh yeah, shit, this was great.
It's like you said. I think you said to me the other day, there have been films we've done on the podcast where I've watched it and not really liked it, and then I've spoken to you and liked the film more as a result.
Yeah.
Or like had my opinion changed on the film. Like, not,
But
it
I
doesn't even
think
necessarily
that's
have to
more of a
change it.
commentary on the fact that like you can sway me, like, and I think I sway you. When we talk about films, I think that we're both like, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about it that way, and it does.
I mean, we won't spoil because we probably talk about it at some point, and it probably already out by the time you're listening to this episode. But you kind of just did it to me a little bit with Barbie.
Oh, did I?
Like a little bit, just because there were certain things that I was like, not that they weren't anything that it didn't make me think differently about the film in terms of like, they were probably things I noticed at the time.
Yeah.
But like once leaving the cinema, I'd just sort of forgotten about it.
Right.
And then you reminding me, I was like, oh yeah, that bit was a bit weird, wasn't it? And oh yeah, that bit, like, you know.
It's just, I mean, look, I guess that's what we're trying to say, right? Is that people will watch and have an impression of a film in a totally different way to the person next to them. And I think that's the beauty of film, because you're watching, it's the exact same input and a very different output.
And I also think it really, like, also depends at what point, like there's so much context to it in terms of like where you are emotionally when you see a film, like at what point in your life you see a film. Like Ex Machina resonated more for me this time than it ever has done.
Really?
Yeah. Just like that scene, I was talking about the scene where Alicia Vikander looks at herself for the first time.
Yeah.
And like, it's the person she always wants, like that clicked with me more this time. We're still that sort of like slight weird robotic edge.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? It's
bit...
incredibly human themes, like, you know, imprisonment and manipulation, identity, like that. But then you keep kind of pinching yourself, like it's a robot, it may as well be a lamp.
But a lamp that looks like Alicia Vikander.
Hot damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lamp.
Yeah.
Everyone wants it.
You would look after that lamp. Don't be gross. What? Talking to myself. Yeah, I thought it was really. I really liked that he's like screaming and banging against the door, and she's totally completely ignores him.
Yeah.
She looks at Kyoko, doesn't she? When she looks down.
Yeah.
What do you think that look was? What do you think that moment was? Do you think it was could I fix her? Do you think it was does she have any parts on her that I can add to my body?
No, I think it's a
gratitude moment?
Yeah.
So is that a confirmation of human?
I almost take it as, like you said, a gratitude moment. And then almost like it's at that point she maybe makes the decision about leaving Domhnall Gleeson stuck in the room, because it's like,
this is what humans do.
This is how they treat us.
Did it feel cold towards Caleb, or did it feel indifferent? I actually feel like it just was indifferent. And I don't know if that's because robots don't have the potential to feel anger, but
it almost feels like it's so hard to, and there's probably so many interpretations of it online, but like part of me is like, she's like, Caleb has served his purpose now, in the same way that Nathan would have said that Ava had served her purpose when he would reboot her or upgrade her. And then there's also a part that I think is almost like a preservation thing on her end as well. Like, if I bring this person along, what happens to me? You know, because in a sense, once she gets into the real, once she gets into the real world, no one's going to know that she's not, in like quotation marks, a real person.
Yeah.
And the only person at that point that does know that, because Nathan said, is Caleb. And is it like a self-preservation thing as well, of like, I can't have this guy you know,
Yeah.
because I can't trust any of these people.
Yeah.
Because the only people she's really known are
Nathan and Kyoko.
Yeah.
And actually, she'd only met Kyoko that day.
In a sense, like Nathan is like an abusive parent. Do you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
if you can't trust
Your creator.
at a formative, like in the formative stages of your life, then you're going to struggle with. That's probably a sweeping generalization, but like, it's going to affect how you trust people going forward in your life. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. It was obviously this came first, but it was quite like 11 in Stranger Things, wasn't it? Papa? But
Yeah.
it was great, that
Yeah.
dynamic. I thought
Yeah.
it was really, really good. What do you think Ava and Kyoko were saying to each other in the corridor before Nathan comes over to them? Do you think that they're saying anything? Do you think they're just looking at each other?
I don't know if I have an answer for you for that.
Really?
Yeah,
I'd like to think they didn't say anything.
I think it's more. I don't think they have to.
They just looked at each other.
It's like a knowing. Like, do you know? Like, I have very few reference points for this in my life, and I think that's probably a result of me being fortunate. Like, there's that thing of like, if you've gone through something that not many people have gone through, and then you meet someone who has the same experience, there's that sort of like thing where you don't actually need to really say anything, because you sort of look at that person and do you know what I mean? And you know that they feel the same thing or have like experienced the same thing. So I think for Ava, when she sees Kyoko, it's like, oh fuck, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not the first one.
Yeah.
And
What would you say if you were seeing the first human being that you'd ever seen in your entire life? You'd be in complete. Wow, I see. We're assigning human emotions.
yeah,
Well, like you'd be in complete shock. But they're robots.
but I don't know if it's a shock thing. I think it's it's almost at that moment Ava realizes what's really going on.
What's
here.
happening?
Yeah.
You feel stupid, but you really shouldn't, because proving an AI is exactly as problematic as you said it would be.
What was the real test?
You. Ava was a rat in a maze, and I gave her one way out. To escape, she'd have to use self-awareness, imagination, manipulation, sexuality, empathy, and she did. Now, if that isn't true AI, what the fuck is?
So my only function was to be someone she could use to escape.
Yeah.
And you didn't select me because I'm good at coding.
No. Well, no. I mean, you're okay. You're even pretty good,
You
but
selected me based on my search engine inputs.
they showed a good kid
With no family,
with a moral compass.
no girlfriend.
Are you ready to rate?
Yep.
Before we rate, I would like a full apology for you
Okay,
thinking that
yeah.
I would not be able to talk
Okay, I
about this film.
sincerely apologise for casting aspersions on your character. But I also think you should acknowledge that it was reasonable of me to make that assumption when someone tells you they haven't seen a film in 9 years. That's quite a while.
Yeah, but I mean, look, if it was anyone else, I would acknowledge it, but I'm not going to with you because you know me very well.
I do
and
know you very well.
we work in film. Like, this is my jam.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I am sorry. I am very sorry. I will never do. I will never
underestimate.
prejudge and underestimate you again.
I wasn't going to ask you to do that, but because you threw me under the bus at the start, I feel like it's fair.
Yeah. So.
What would you rate this film out of 5 Alicia Vikander lamps?
I can't remember at this point if I've given a film a 5-star rating.
I think you have.
I don't think I have.
Didn't we have a spreadsheet? Do we have a spreadsheet?
We do, but it doesn't have every result on them.
Okay.
But I don't think I have, because you gave National Treasure a 5, but I didn't.
No regrets.
I think this might be my first 5-star.
Really? Whoa.
I think it's a near perfect film.
No, you gave Prestige 5, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
I'm like looking through.
I didn't, because I sort of felt a little bit worn down at the end of the Prestige. I think this is a near perfect film, and I think it's hard to give anything a perfect rating.
Right.
But I think if I'm gonna do it, I feel like I've got to do it at some point on the podcast, right? Like otherwise there's no point having 5 stars. Might as well be out of 4. So if I'm gonna do it, I can't see a reason not to give it to Ex Machina.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Plus, like, who doesn't want 5 Alicia Vikander lamps?
I'll take 6 if they're going.
Maybe an Oscar Isaac one as well. He's kind of cool.
This was a young Oscar Isaac. This was, before he was super, super big.
Yeah.
God, he's always
This is
been
around
good,
like Drive and stuff like that,
Yeah, he's an incredibly talented guy.
Right. And
you know what? So versatile, because he really changes his faces.
Real range,
it's not even his physicality. His faces change. I don't know how else to say it, but it took me a while to be like, oh my God, that's Oscar Isaac.
I don't feel like we've given ample credit to Domhnall Gleeson, who
stellar actor.
Very good, yeah.
Everything I've seen him in, I've loved him in. He can do About Time, and then he can be on the fucking Death Star. What else?
They both end up being in Star Wars. That's fun, isn't it? The triumvirate of Vikander, Isaac, Gleeson.
Excellent cast.
Yeah.
Really, really strong.
I mean,
also,
it's easy is it easier though for Domhnall Gleeson to be an exceptional actor when his dad Brendan is also an exceptional
No, I think it's harder. I think you feel like you have to prove yourself, or you've someone to live up to.
He's been able to carve his own path.
Yeah, massively so.
And actually, for a long time, it took me a while to realise that he was his son.
Yeah.
So.
We hope nepotism wasn't involved, but if it was unnecessary, because Domhnall is a star in his own right. The 3 of them I thought were excellent casting, and also very, very quickly, both Alicia and Domhnall's accents in this were spot on. There was no drops.
And you're always hot on the accents.
I will be quick to the mark.
As regular listeners to the podcast will know, I thought Chris Pine did a great Scottish accent in Outlaw King.
I get it. That was the good accent, did you? It was so bad. It was awful.
How many of Alicia Vikander lamps?
Hope he never hears this.
Are you giving out of 5?
I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna give this a 4.6. I thought it was an incredible film. I thought the build was amazing. The combination, the sound design was so good. The score was so good. I thought the cinematography was beautiful. The acting was incredible. The direction, the screenplay was just clearly excellent.
Now is the time in the podcast where we delve into the credits of the film and pick out. Well, Elsa's picked out 3 crew members. I'm going to pick out one of the crew members.
Yeah,
from
buddy.
That crew member, we will pick our next film. So, Elsa, I haven't looked at your notes. They've been very good.
Well done.
Please tell me.
I tried to write them really small so that if you cheated.
Yeah, because I can't even see them from here, to be honest.
Okay.
I
know
can't
wearing
really
the
read
glasses. Okay. So we have. Because of the incredible work and the Oscar one, I wanted to give a nod to VFX. So we've got VFX artist Tolga Ari.
Right.
Oh, she almost read out the film. It's so hard not to do that. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, it was difficult.
Okay, and then I don't feel like we have a lot of production people that we mentioned. So line producer Caroline Levy.
Okay.
And then the prosthetics life casting artist Colm Mangan. Or Colm.
Colm.
I know
What's-
a guy whose name is spelled Colm, but you pronounce it Colm. So I'm sorry,
Oh, okay.
Colm or Colm. One of the two.
I'm going to
Do you want me to
go-
say them again?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to go with... Is there a right answer here for
I
you?
don't know. I'm nervous. I've tried.
What was the last
I think
one?
you'll like all of these.
What was the last one you said?
So,
What was the role of the last person you
a
said?
prosthetics life casting artist.
Colm. I'm going to go with that because that sounds interesting. So what we seeing?
Next week, we will be watching Baz Luhrmann's Elvis.
Oh fuck me! You thought I would like that?
No, I thought that was the one you weren't gonna like.
All right. Well, I mean, hey, it's relevant. It's not that old.
2022,
so, yeah.
baby.
So join us. Thank you for listening, everybody. Join us next time when we will be watching Elvis. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye. It's
Goodbye.
like 4 hours long as well, isn't it? It's like
Now, a lot of people worked on that film, James. Awards were won.
yeah, they were.
Tears
yeah,
were
it might
shed.
be brilliant. I might think it's brilliant.
And do you
Right.
know what? I like Elvis. So at the very worst, we get to listen to some
I
Elvis.
don't like Elvis.
You
It's part
don't.
of the reason I
Loose suede shoes? You don't like Elvis?
No, I've got a lot of problems with Elvis, and
You didn't like when that white man sang about the ghetto?
well, that being one of the problems.